Welcome back to We Are Human. This is episode 3. I am Susan Leonardson.
I'm Andrea here.
And in this episode, we really want to talk about what do we know so far and what are we doing at the moment for personally, for clients, for, what all the aspects of our lives. Like, how are we staying connected? What tips and tools and practices are we using right now? We're not going to go too much into it in this episode. We want to keep this a little bit short. There's definitely going to be future episodes where we'll dive deeper into some of the things we're going to mention today. But yeah, just so again you can kind of understand, where are we coming from? What is our perspective of this? What values do we share with you, and help you decide if you are with us on this mission or not.
Yeah,
So, um let's start, Andrea, with kind of like in our personal lives. I feel
yeah,
like that's easier to talk about.
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So, and I'm going to use this opportunity to just tell you a little bit about myself. Like, who is Susan? My bio, if you will, because I think that that stuff matters when we're talking. I mean, let's be real. Let's be human on this show,
Ugh,
and let's let you actually connect to us as a human. So,
a great invitation, yes.
so I'll go first. I currently live in Idaho. I'm originally from Colorado. It's Andrea, I'm going to speak for you for a second. Andrea currently lives in Colorado, and we're always having this battle this time of year of like, who got snow first? Because I love
I'm winning
snow.
today.
She won because I live in a valley in Idaho and it's not cold enough yet. It's actually raining outside right now. And I'm like, dang it. Andrea always wins. But we also have this dream of like, okay, we're going to start doing in our business, we're going to start doing like at least semi-annual like CEO retreats, and we're going to go to a cabin in the mountains and we're going to just go do our CEO days. So like we love the mountains. We have that in common. It's awesome.
Yes.
So I'm married. I've been married for gosh, math since 2008. You guys can do the do the math there. I think
Long
I'm
time.
coming up on 17 years.
Wow.
Crazy.
Mm,
I have 3 kids. They're between the ages of 7 and 13, and they are amazing kids. Um, I did here's kind of like gonna set a little bit of the groundwork for what I'm gonna say in a little bit. Um, Kind of my backstory business wise is, or like just educational wise, is I did not I attended like a year and a half of community college because I did not get accepted into the one college that I applied to. And I was like, fine, whatever. I don't want to go anyway because I don't have the money and I don't want to go into debt. Like, I very much knew that I was not going to go get a loan if I did get accepted into a college. I'm like, well, I can't pay for it then. So
mm.
I went the community college route. It was fine till I got this one professor at community college, professor in some subject, I don't even know what it was, who completely started bashing something that is personal to me. And I literally got up and walked out of the classroom and I never went back. I was
Oh my
done. And
gosh.
so I just went, I was like, nope, done. So then I started my career path. So I don't have a degree. I don't have even like a full 2 years of college under my belt. But entrepreneurship has always been something that I have valued. I watched my parents run a business my entire life. The uh, other end of the spectrum of that, though, they live the typical entrepreneur life of we're in business for ourselves because we want to be our own bosses, but they never had the actual freedom to do anything that we all hope we can do when we get into entrepreneurship. And so I watched them have to work themselves to the bones. By the time they retired, they barely got anything out of it. And that is kind of my little side mission
Mm,
is when we're in this conversation about being human and things that we value. To me, being human does not mean that we are stuck in something that doesn't bring us joy and bring us closer to the things that we value. And when we get trapped into something like that, we've lost that freedom to do those things that bring us joy and closer to the things that we value. That is not a life, in my opinion. We're kind of losing a little bit of our humanity in that because we are no longer able to progress and reach our full potential as a human.
Mhm.
So, um, that was a long bio, but
No, it's
it's
great.
important. I'm actually gonna pause and let Andrea kind of introduce herself, and then let's dive into kind of like the more personal day-to-day things that we do.
Okay, that sounds good. And I loved hearing the story about you walking out. I didn't hear that one before,
I haven't
so
told
that
it
makes a
that
lot
way
of
before.
sense. Yeah, that makes a lot. I mean, because you have such strong convictions of who you are and what's important to you, and you stand by them. And so that actually, your connection to education, with that experience makes even more sense now to me.
Yeah.
So I loved hearing that. Yeah. Okay. So my name is Andrea Peer. I, yeah, grew up most of my life in Colorado. I'm a military brat. Went to a military academy, went into the military for 4 years in the Air Force. And then I left that and went corporate. So I, unlike Susan, I am not married. I have no kids. I have always just been career oriented, and that's been my path. So went into corporate America for 18 years. Uh, and I am also on the other side of the spectrum of like, I did all the education. So, bachelor's, master's, PhD, I did all of it. I stayed in academia actually for a little bit because I loved it there and it was amazing, but they're so not grounded in applied application of what we were doing. And so, I needed to go back into the real world and actually see my theories and my ideas in a real world application. Because again, I want to actually help humans, not just pontificate or think about or have a cognitive exercise about being human. It was has always been important to me to be very grounded in real world experiences. So I've been pretty career oriented my whole life and pretty much not had much of a life. So my life has usually been for a very, very long time in the hours of 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. Whatever I could get in that time for fun or pleasure usually was how I lived. And I did not put a lot of prioritization or emphasis on real human connections. It was just about achievement for most of my life. And then I had this incredible experience, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it more on the podcast, where I have my best friend in the world took me down to Peru, worked with a shaman, had an ayahuasca experience, and I came back and I was changed forever. And I could not at that moment in my life ever look at another human just as a transaction again. It was this deeply profound. It's like they have this saying of like, once you see, you can't unsee. And so that kind of put me into the spiral of I left corporate America, actually got myself fired in the most beautiful way because I couldn't do it anymore. And then I started down the path of entrepreneurship. And I think I've always been an entrepreneur. That has always been inside of me. And even as a kid, like looking at all the things I did, it was all entrepreneurship, but I just was so much in the system, I didn't see it. Now I am very much still a workaholic, but thank you to Susan and just the business that we're creating. What I like to do now is I love going to rock concerts and actually chasing down experiences, which I'll talk a lot about, and trying to live a little bit more. I'm not going to say balance because I don't really believe in balance, but a little bit more space and time during normal hours to go and enjoy life and connect with friends. And so I am back in Colorado, reconnecting with my family and friends, and just trying to, yeah, bring more of that into my life. So that's a little bit about me. And I have two crazy cats, which I'm sure you'll see on the podcast because I can't control them.
They'll occasionally walk across the the screen. I might have some dogs hanging out
Yeah.
behind me. Andrea has the cats, I have the dogs, and, yeah, it's fun when we I actually haven't I have met your cats, but I haven't, like, been to Andrea's house.
Yeah.
Like, Andrea comes to my house several times a year, and so I need to go to Andrea's house.
Let's do it.
We do, yeah. We Andrea drove from Washington to Colorado on her move and stopped in at my house, and we did make a 12-hour trip together in her car, loaded up to the brim, and her 3 cats. It was just so fun.
I
Such a good
literally was
memory.
like shoving Susan in the passenger seat. She's like got my cat on top of her. Like she's got like an arm on a box. Like I was like, you were such a good
A
sport.
cat, like, at my head, cat right here. Yeah, yep. It was so good, though.
It was.
Yeah, it was fun time. Okay, so, oh my gosh, where do we go from here?
Vehicle. How do
Personal.
we
So
yeah.
I'm gonna go a little bit of a different direction for a minute because this has been a recent thing that I've been dealing with. So my oldest is my daughter. She's a creative to the bone. Like she is an artist. She loves anything crafty. She's a bookworm. Like you can start to imagine the type, right? And think it was like when ChatGPT first like blew up, that was that a couple of years ago now. I was like, okay, what are all the cool ways that we can use this? Just exploring as we all were. And I think it was a little bit summer. I think it may have been over summer when that was all kind of happening. And so my kids were home, and one of the struggles of being a working parent from home is just trying to survive during the summertime is like keeping your kids like busy while you're trying to, do the work that you need to do. And so I introduced Chat GPT to my kids that summer, and they have play kitchen toys, and they love to play restaurant. But
Oh,
they
okay.
none of them, so all out of the three, none of them want to be the customer. They all want to be the cooks and the preparers and the servers. And so they needed customers. And I'm like, oh, I can't right now. I can't be your customer right now, but let's make you an AI customer. And so I pulled up a phone, made them a little chat, kind of prompted it for my kids. You are a customer. Every time they say next, give them an order. And so my daughter, not knowing, we didn't know that I was about to do this at the time, but my daughter, because she is who she is, she's, I think, type A. She made a list of all the possible dishes that they could make, like meals that they could make
That's
out of all
so
the
much.
toys. So she had it all written down, and I snapped a picture, fed it into AI. Here's your options. When they say next, order like 5 different things for your meal. And they loved it. They played for hours with that, and it was
So
the
cool.
coolest thing. And so, I mentioned a couple episodes ago of like, okay, we have to be careful not to lose our creativity. But at the same time, that in that moment, that
Mhm,
allowed my kids to be in their play. In
mm,
and we actually will talk about this probably in another episode, but there is something that Andrea and I have talked about recently of need to leverage AI. We need to leverage technology. We're in a digital world. You're watching and listening to this digitally, but there is importance in something tangible and like the tactile of
mm,
things in life. And so that day when I gave them something with AI, it was operated by it was powered by it. It allowed them to live in the tactile world and play together and not argue about who needs to be the customer. Like, it enabled them to be able to move forward and and do what they wanted to do, right? They wanted to play in that particular way. So I think when we're talking about how do we use the technology to make us more human, I think that that's a really good example of that.
mhm,
It allowed them to be more human that day.
mhm,
So, that is one of the ways that we're kind of leveraging it in our household is we're thinking like, okay, how can we use this in a way that is allowing us to connect with each other? Recently over Thanksgiving break, my sister came out and visited, and her family, or her specifically, not so much her family, but her specifically, and our family are big board gamers and D&D type gamers,
mhm.
also video gamers, side note. But she's like, "I have this game. I wanna play with you guys." And so, like, for the week before they came out for Thanksgiving, she texted me some rules and, like, "Here's some, like, characteristics. You guys need to create your characters." And so there's, like, this character sheet where we're filling in, like, the name, and you have to, like, roll the dice, pick the character or the career of your character and all these things. And we're like, "Okay, well, we need pictures. There's a spot on the paper for the
Oh.
profile picture of our character." I'm like, "Okay, well, naturally, let me pull out my phone and let's open up Chat GPT." And we snapped a picture of our character. We snapped pictures of kind of the premise of the game so it knew enough context. And now we all have these really cool characters that we created. But not only that, my son, before we did that, he wanted to draw his own character.
Oh,
And
nice.
so he drew it out, and then and my daughter too, drew it out, and then we took a picture because we want to make like a digital version of it. And so, anyway, so long story short, it was bringing us together
Mhm,
in this way that I think technology and entrepreneurship especially has this way of making us lonely.
mhm.
We're working from home. I'm in this house by myself. I actually like was just telling Andrea, I got one of those Claude AI recording devices so I can just like kind of record my thoughts throughout the day. But I'm like, Andrea, I actually haven't used it yet because I'm by myself all day long and I don't talk to anybody. It's kind of lonely.
Uh,
And so anything that we in our family, if we can find a way to use it to bring us together, that's our goal right now with our kids. And so those are two ways we've been able to do that.
mm,
I've been talking for a lot. So Andrea, I'm gonna let you jump in with something on your
sure.
side.
So I have been exploring a lot. I've been working through something that's deeply personal. Part of this journey for me is trying to understand myself better and understand like how do I show up, what's important, work through. I mean, if we want to get to all of like the cliche stuff of like the childhood wounds and the trauma and how do you show up as a better human and how do you not seek external validation and all the stuff that we get to work through on this human journey. Well, so historically, gone to therapist, gone to counseling. I have my best friend in the world is a cognitive behavioral therapist, like deep experts. I've done spiritual teachings, I've done meditations, I've done all of this. But all of it is, it scratches the surface and it gives you tools to understand yourself better. But I really think that the work is in your own mind and in your own body and in your own knowing. But if you don't have that expertise of psychology or mental health, it's really hard to navigate that, especially because our egos are so smart. I'll just speak for mine. She is freaking brilliant at keeping me from the stuff that I should be working on. Like, she is so good at not allowing me to actually get there, because it's dangerous and it's scary and it's there for a reason and all this other stuff. So I've been running these experiments where I will go. I have this trail in the back of my house. It's like about a 30-minute to an hour-long loop, depending on which loop I do. And so I've been running these experiments where I pull up Claude, and which is my favorite AI tool that I use. I pull up Claude and on the voice, and this is really important so that you don't have to. So I've been pulling up on the voice experience with her and trying to run experiments of how might I use her to go a little bit deeper, get around the ego, and be able to explore things. And so part of it is like being out in nature and walking. I think that that is, you know, technology aside, I think there's just something very medicinal about that. And so being outside and walking. But then what I've experimented with is if I can not ask her for solution but ask for like how might some of the experts that I know in the field, like Esther Perel or Eckhart Tolle or Jesus, or like what might they ask me with when I say this or when I am feeling this or when I'm experiencing this? And what I've found in that process is this very because I tend to be sometimes I need to explore the world of ideas before I can explore the world of feelings. So it's unlocked this like it satiates my brain to then be like quiet. So then I can actually feel into, okay, what am I feeling and how is this? And so it's become this amazing like walking partner with me. And again, as long as I don't ask it for solutions, because that's when I think it jumps into the process of the feeling and the experiencing. If I just stay in question mode, I have been amazed, and I really did not think it would work, but I've been amazed at what it's been able to unlock and just explore in my own journey and personal discovery and trying to figure out how to not be as messy or how to show up differently. So, yeah, that's what I've been working with now.
Side note a little bit, I just was watching something where it was talking about I don't know the name of it, but there's this technique that the all of like the military and like special ops guys use and like CIA where well they did this experiment is where they discovered this technique and they put I don't remember how many people they put into a dark room. It was maybe like 20 men or something into like isolation darkness
Mhm.
and the goal was to get through 48 hours and not really any I think only one of them actually made it through the first 24 hours, if
Mhm.
that, but only one person actually made it all the way through because everybody was just going crazy, like literally crazy in their minds. They could not handle it. They were tapping out like 6 hours into it, 10 hours in it, like they could not handle it of just total deprivation of sight and no stimulation. And they're like, "Okay, well, why did this guy make it through?" And they asked him, like, "What did you do that everyone else didn't do?" And they discovered that what he did was he just talked he, like, basically narrated everything that he did. he talked about what he
Ooh.
was doing. Like, I am sitting, I am touching the wall, I am
Mm.
bending over. And he just said what he was doing, which kept, I'm going to screw this up because I'm not very, I don't know the terms, but there's the part in your brain that is connected to your sight. And if that is not being stimulated and seeing what is reality right now, your
Mhm.
brain starts to make up its own reality. And so the people that were going nuts, their brain couldn't make, like, they didn't know what reality was anymore because there
Mhm.
was nothing to ground it. But
Mhm.
he was able to get through it because he was telling his brain what reality was.
Mm.
And it went into all this whole science thing. So now it's like a technique that all those, service guys use when they're in extreme situations that their bodies and brains may be having a hard time handling, that they just have to speak. And that's why you see them doing, like the commands that they do. Like if you ever watch
Mhm.
a movie of like military operations, they're like they're very verbal to one
Mhm.
another when they're not having to be quiet. Obviously they're
Yeah.
communicating for the purposes of coordinating, but
Yeah.
there's a very real reason that they're doing it because it helps the brain stay in what's real right now, not in what I need to panic about.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
what you were just talking about on your walk, yeah, it's really cool that the AI is like being this partner with you. But also, I think that's what you're doing is you're just talking about what is my reality right now, and just like speaking it out loud helps you to be able to process it. I think that's why so
Yes.
many of us are verbal processors too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's so interesting about that story is that there's also a spiritual aspect to it.
Mhm.
So in a lot of forms of consciousness or spirituality or whatever you want to call it, the practice of it is to become the observer, to separate away from this very egoic way of being in the world, this very human way of being in the world, and stepping into more of our spiritual awareness of like observing ourselves.
Mhm.
And there is a divinity in that process, I think, instead of just being in the muck of your day to day and all of the emotions and everything that is there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. I love that. Um, okay. Where I want to go a little bit of a different direction for a minute because
Mhm.
the thing that we do besides this podcast is our business. And our business is actually, so it's Geek Out. We started a few years ago. We love what we do. And the whole mission behind Geek Out is to help our clients who are entrepreneurs, small business owners, to be connected with their humans more, to be connected with their customers. And so our entire business is built on how do we do that in the business space. And so I want to just take a little bit of time right now. Andrea, I'm going to let you speak on it first. I'll just say we specifically work with people who are delivering digital courses and programs in the online space, and they need like a membership, like content area. All the softwares call them something different, for people to log into and access the thing that they just purchased. And one of the problems we're trying to solve in our business is how do we take something that is by all logic should be
Mhm.
and has traditionally been an in-person live experience, education, learning stuff. We go to school, we're learning. Um, how do we make that a digital experience without losing too much of the effectiveness and the connection? And how do we make it work better? How do you go from live in person to this like digital world?
Mm.
So that's our mission in our business. So Andrea, go ahead and expand
I've
a little
never
bit more
I
on
think
what
you've
we do.
articulated it yeah, you've articulated better than I think I've ever heard you articulate it. It
Yay,
was
I'm
so
getting
good.
better.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a background in user experience design and research. That's what I did in industry for 18 years. And so I bring a lot of that world into this world, and we recreated a very specific way of doing that called journey crafting. And what journey crafting is we always start with the intention. And again, that's starting with the human first. So a lot of the times the intention is around skill building or personal growth and development or something along those lines. But we'll work with the entrepreneur who's that deep expert of like, what is your intention for your people? All journeys start with intention because it's where we meet each other in our highest form. And so then from there, we'll start to break down, okay, they might teach them something, but we always say, okay, once you teach something, you always have a behavioral ask. And so we use practices from what works in game design and what works in product adoption strategies, specifically in like the SaaS world. And we try to infuse that into a journey that we craft. And in that crafting of the journey, we're specifically looking for like behaviors that we expect to see in a particular time frame. And then we have our software that lays on top of that to collect the signals of those behaviors. And then we're basically making experiments after we've done the first pass and we've deployed it and people are starting to do it and we see the normal lifts in what they're doing based on what we've created in the journey. We start to run experiments of how might we inject a little bit more human connection or human touch or human potential into each of these moments that we see in the collective journey where people might be stopping or stalling or getting stuck or not doing the thing they're supposed to be doing or not supposed to be, but they want to do it. And how do we re-tap into that desire and that ability and that motivation and that capacity for them to keep going on their way, to better themselves in the way that they put their money into bettering themselves. So it's a combination of very high touch consulting type of work where we're articulating that journey and we know it has to start there because that's where we're starting with the human part of it. And then we add technology, our software on top of it to try to then help us continue to experiment and get better at that journey that we're trying to create. So that's what we do in our business. But again, like we said at the beginning, last episode, and I'll say it again now, is despite all of our knowing, and we're pretty good. Like we can get engagement. Like we can see 30% increases in engagement in our business. But despite all of our knowing, every day our conversations are usually around this person is lost. This person doesn't know what to do. They're dropping here. They're not doing the thing. They don't know what to do here. And then the entrepreneur being like, I've given it all I've got. I don't know how to do anymore. So it's like you have these two very human sides. And in our day-to-day conversation, it is, okay, how do we just be more human? Both the business you want to create as a human and the humans that you're serving, how do we help them step into their potential while recognizing the very human things that are happening for them on that journey. And that's the game we get to play every day.
Okay, we're not going to do this too often, but I think it fits here. If you are someone who you're like, okay, that sounds really interesting, and I think that I want to talk to you guys more about that, you can reach out to us. Our business email is hello@geekoutconnect.com. We'll put it down in the notes. Geekoutconnect.com is our site. Like if you're like, okay, I really need help connecting with my humans. Like I'm tired of people using their money and I'm grateful for the money, but I'm tired of people giving me money and then not actually getting the result that I want them to get. Then that is what we help with. So reach out. We love to talk to you.
You heard today a little bit about the high level of what we do. Next episode, we're going to get a little bit more tactical in terms of how do we actually infuse being human into the process and what we know about the nature of being human in that. So we'll get super tactical in some of our frameworks and our day to day, what we do in our business. And again, if you are similar, building a future where you're wanting to keep humans at the very forefront, and you want the tactics of at least what we know so far, that's what we're going to be talking about next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to We Are Human. We'll see you on the next episode. Stay human, stay connected.